Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to talk about something that can impact your life in a major way. And it's something that we all deal with, whether you want to admit it or not. And I love the way the universe works because I just talked to Suzanne, who is with us. She's an amazing life coach, Suzanne Jenkins. But even before I begin, Suzanne, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Steve. Nice to see you again.
You too. And it's so funny. Before we got on here, seconds ago, I'm talking about going to see a concert tonight to see the 80s band Tears for Fears. And interestingly, we're going to talk about change, why we fear change. Tears for Fears is the name of that group. And one of their first hit song was called Change. So it's kind of weird. I'm not looking for stuff. I think the universe just says, here, take it. I'm going to, jump in the water and go with the flow. And that's kind of what we got to do when it comes to change. We fear it. We worry about the future and we struggle in our lives because invariably it holds us back. And is that what you hear from a lot of people, that they're afraid to make some changes and move in a different direction that might be better to support them?
Oh, for sure, all the time. And I think as human beings, we like our routine. And even though we recognize that we need to do something different, we're fearful. And it's the sort of like the major reason why people don't run with opportunities. They don't, they decide they need something different in their life, but they're too fearful to go out and actually do it. And the majority of the reasons really is that they have fear of failing. They've got fear of being judged by others, especially their loved ones. And sometimes it's the fear of how much is this going to cost me? What time is it going to take up of mine? And what effort am I going to have to put in to get this result? And I like to rewrite those fears. I like to look at them in a different way. I like to think of, well, fail, as we all know, the well-known phrase, it's the first attempt in learning. But I like to think of failure as feedback. There's no such thing as failure. It's feedback. It's feedback that particular way did not work and didn't produce the outcome you were expecting. And I think we learn from our mistakes. As children, we learn, we ignore being told, don't touch that, that's hot, but we still do it anyway. We get burnt and we know we don't touch that again. I think, and also, it's just...
I want to jump in one moment, Suzanne, because what you said is so powerful. We're programmed for fear even before we're born. It's evolution that puts us in us for survival. So even if cave people, we're always on guard. Predator comes around the corner, a pterodactyl or whatever it might be. And when we grow up, even as kids, fear is in us. Like you just said, don't touch that. So as a kid, what are you doing? I'm not going to touch the stove, with good reason. Don't cross the street with traffic. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah. There's fear involved in that. And a lot of times it's unfounded. Those are important fears and they should be there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But my point is we start that way, in a negative way.
Well, it's interesting actually, because we as humans are born with only two fears. And that is, one is falling and the other is loud noises. All the other fears we accumulate through our lives are learned either by observing others or things that we've experienced ourselves.
Wow.
So it's quite interesting how that comes about. And what we do is, through our experiences or through others, people constantly telling us something, it stacks. So even though we may not have experienced something ourselves, because we've been told it often enough, we believe it. We believe that that is a fact. That is the truth.
Let's go back to that. The two fears that you said, falling, and what was the other one?
Loud noises.
Interesting. And a lot of people report when they have a nightmare, a dream, a lot of times they're falling, like
Yeah.
just falling, just maybe out of the sky. It's just falling. Side note, I fell over the weekend. I took a spill right on my butt.
Oh dear.
Thought I hurt my ankle. I'm fine. It's like once you fall, you're on guard. It's like, you're always watching. But yeah, I've never heard that before. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. It's something I did when I was studying my qualification for neuro-linguistic programming. It was something we talked about there, how fear can stack up.
Sure. And have you heard this, that the majority of things that we worry about, we fear, never take place?
No.
It's like a high number, and they do this study, poll research every couple of years, and it's always about 90-something% that the stuff we worry about never transpires, never even happens. You wasted your time and your energy worrying about those one thing or two things. And the acronym, I don't know if you've heard this one: fear, false evidence appearing real.
I have.
Right?
I love that phrase.
Yeah,
I've also heard another one, which I wrote down actually, which is face everything and rise.
I'm back to music, but I don't know if you remember the song Changes from David Bowie. The line in the song is, changes, turn and face the strange. Changes. Well, yes, it is strange because it's unfamiliar, but it's exactly what you said too. You need to just, face it and move above it.
And the book by, is it, I think it's Susan Jeffrey or Jeffries, which is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, or something along those lines.
Do you find, Suzanne, when you're faced with change, maybe it wasn't planned, an event took place, whatever it might be, and now you're thrust into it, could be a big change. Once you start doing it, once you get the faith in yourself, oh, I handle that, I can handle this one. And then you get past that one. Oh, wow, I'm pretty good with that. Let me go this one. Now I'm on to this one. Do you hear that? Do you find that?
Do. Confidence stacking. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Once you realize you've achieved something, it gives you the encouragement, the confidence to push through and do other things as well.
Yeah.
Bit of a funny story. Just over a year ago, I took part in a aerobatic plane ride, and I was really, really excited, but also fearful. It was a gift from my partner, and but once I got into the plane and we took off and we were doing loop-de-loop and flying upside down and practice, what happens when the plane stalls and all the rest of it. It was just such a ride. It was such an adrenaline rush, and I so enjoyed it.
I can totally relate, and I'm going to share kind of the same situation. Being in broadcast in the area where I am, there's a team of U.S. pilots. They're called the Blue Angels, and
yes, seen them.
Okay. They, every Memorial Day weekend, or almost every Memorial Day weekend, they're in our area, New York area, and they put on a show. I have the opportunity to get into a plane and do just what you said.
Oh, fab.
Guess what? Never did it.
No.
Because fear. My fear is not, and I should do it, is not the flying and the height and everything. It's the upside down and things like that. Even being on a ship over a period of time messes with my head. I'm just like queasy. However, my birthday was, I don't know, like 6, 7, 8, no, more than that. 10 months ago, and somebody gave me a gift certificate to skydive.
Right.
So now I'm faced. I have to do it.
You do.
I have to do it, and I'm looking forward to it. I still have to book that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you had some fear in that plane, acrobatic plane situation. After it was done, did you turn around and say, why did I worry about that? That was fantastic.
The pilot actually let me take the controls as well
Well,
after a while.
oh, nice.
It was a joystick thing. It was the tiniest plane you've ever seen. I think it's called a Pit Special or something.
Uh-huh.
I just remembered it was bright yellow. And
Wow.
and when we got down, we were met by my partner, and he said that I was hardcore, he phrased it.
Okay.
So I took that as a compliment.
You embraced it and ran with it, and
Yeah.
good for you.
And that's one of the things I tell my clients as well. Fear and excitement, physically and emotionally, are two sides of the same coin. They're very, very similar,
Hmm,
very similar.
yeah.
And if you can sort of like push past it and think of it as it's nervous excitement rather than fear, then you'd be surprised how much more you can achieve and will do.
I can see that because even to the point of the events that we're talking about, so many people will get on a roller coaster. They have some fear, but it's also the excitement that's coming with it. And I think if we search deep within those things that we're afraid of, the new job, changing relationships, whatever it is, you're looking at it like, I don't know, it's uneasy. Deep down inside, you're like, well, that'd be so cool. I can't, I would love to work for that company. Or I know there's somebody out there for me. I'm in this relationship. Now, how exciting that would be over there, when I meet that right person, but I can't because I'm in this relationship. There is, if you listen to yourself, you hear the excitement.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
And if you can really plug into that excitement,
sure.
you
Yeah.
can, move mountains. And
Okay.
I
How do
also,
we do that? How do we do that?
how do we do that? I call it a matter of getting into a good mental state. And one of the ways you can do that is to, first of all, think about your breathing. So if you're getting a little bit anxious and you're breathing, then do some, I believe it's called combat breathing, and it's certainly used by snipers and things, but
Hmm.
it's a box breathing. So you breathe into the count of four. Imagine that you're drawing a box. So you breathe into a count of four, that's the top. You hold for a count of four, that's the side. You exhale for a count of four, that's the bottom. And then you, excuse me, um, rest again for a count of four, that's the other side. So you're breathing in for four, you're holding for four, you're breathing out for four, and you're just resting for four. And it slows your heartbeat down. It allows the parasympathetic nervous system to kick in and keep you calm and keep you focused instead of going into that panic, flight, fight, freeze
Fight.
situation.
I think it's fight or flight. I
Yeah.
think it's hard.
There's
It's
also the freeze. Some people just freeze.
and
They
that
can't
too,
do anything.
and that
Yeah.
too. And even
Yeah.
if it's a long-term decision, I mean, this sounds like we're talking immediate. Oh, I'm going on a roller coaster. All right. Do the breathing. It's going to be great. Even the long term to give you clarity. Let's say it's a job. Let's say it's
Right.
a career change.
Yeah.
You go about your day, you start thinking about it, and then it's like I can't do it. I'm no, not thinking about it. Not going to go there. If you take the time to do the breathing exercise, which scientifically proven, by the way, you can Google it. All
Mhm.
this stuff works. You get more clarity, I believe, right?
You do. You do. And I always try and look and suggest to my clients that they look for the possibilities, the options, positives. So it is very
Hmm.
much a positive focus rather than thinking about what you're leaving behind, because everybody should progress, in my view. Everybody changes, our needs change, our tastes change. And this is just another change of taste or preference. And to think of it like that. So be very, very positive and list all the pros,
Yes.
why you're doing. Look at the bigger picture.
Yes.
uh, have such a compelling vision of why you're doing what you're doing that
So
it's a no-brainer.
you are, I'm glad you brought that up because many of us are, we're on our phone. We think we can remember stuff. We think we can process stuff, but we can't. So you have all these thoughts bouncing in your head, like literally ricocheting inside your head, like, well, if I take that job, this issue, then is this, then ping, 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 ping. And you can't really focus on it. But if you write it down, it's in
Mm-hmm.
front of you. And there's again scientifically proven that the connection between the hands and the mind, as you write it, it's becoming a statement, I guess, the best description. And now it's more solid in front of you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. And I'm not sure if we touched on this last week. It sounds familiar. Maybe I was talking to somebody else.
Maybe it was
But
journaling. Did we talk about journaling?
we did. It's
Okay.
rather like journaling.
Sure.
You've thought about it, you've written it, so you've got the kinesthetic element of it.
Yep.
You've got the emotional element of it, and when we think about it, we write it. Invariably, we read it back. So in effect, we've put that into our minds 3 times. So it makes it much more definitive. It makes it much more solid.
Tell me about that. The 3 times.
So the thinking about it.
Okay.
So you've thought about it. You've done the kinesthetic thing of writing about it.
Okay.
So you're following it as you're writing it. You're thinking about it then, and invariably you'll read it back. So that's the 3rd time.
Fair enough. 3 times
It's
the charm.
exactly. It's almost like underlining it. If you see something in a book and you highlight it, it's a bit like that.
Well, it's often been said and this was from Lee Iacocca, and he, big car guy from way back, like 60s, 70s. He revolutionized the car industry, at least in America. And he always said, if it's not in print or if it's not written down, it does not exist.
Right.
So what he's saying is, great for a handshake, but okay, that's not in print, it's not written down. So if you go along with that, now you're seeing your words written down. It does exist. It's real. It is
real,
tangible now.
Mm.
Yeah.
And also, if you're considering doing, enforcing some change or doing something differently in your life, it's good to tell as many people. A lot of people like to keep it quiet. It's like, oh no, I want to keep that on the down low. But once you've put it out there, you've put it out there. You've got to do it now to save face if nothing else.
Totally. And why don't we put those things out there? Because we're afraid of failure and judgment. It's a different situation where you took the job, and we're just using, job hypothetical here as examples. But after you take the job, you called your friends up, like, yeah, I took this new job. It's fantastic. Having a great time, making more money. But you usually don't say, well, I'm thinking about taking this job and I'm a little conflicted here. And like I said, it makes you vulnerable too.
It does. And you put it out there, and if for any reason you backtrack, then you fear people pulling you up on that. Hey, I thought you were going to do blah, 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 and you didn't. So, well, why was that then? And sometimes you feel you've got to justify yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, it's down to you. But yeah, I think once you've put it out there, made well known, posted it on Facebook, for example, or LinkedIn or whatever other social media platform you use, people are going to be interested in how you got on.
How do you work with people as a coach through change and fear? And we talked about a lot of stuff here, but in terms of plugging into a program that you have, and I know I want to get to, you have a 6-step program that we're going to get to in just a moment. But when somebody reaches out to you, and I got to assume usually it's at the point where it's time for a change. Like I'm kind of trying to navigate all of this. They tell you what they're thinking, they tell you what their goals are, and then where does it go from there?
Well, we sit and have a good chat, and we discover, is that really? Because sometimes people they say, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that, and they're saying that because they feel they should rather than they want to.
Hmm.
A lot of people I've worked with have done things because they could, not necessarily because they wanted to. So, for example, and I cite myself in this, yeah, I did a job for 25 years because I could. Did I enjoy it? It was okay, and the money was good, etc. But it wasn't something I was truly passionate about and something that I felt had a good, strong purpose. And so we'll sit down and we'll really dig around their values. We'll dig around, what are they passionate about? What sort of things do they like to do? And
Hmm.
it stems from that, really. You can't just take what people say on face value. 9 times out of 10, you have to go down at least 3 layers to get to the truth.
Wow. Um, I was in the same situation. 26 years, dream job, scored it when I was not barely 18. Fantastic run, very successful, very lucky, very grateful. But it came to a point where I love what I'm doing, but I don't love where I'm doing it anymore. They made
Right.
changes and it just didn't feel right. And I do remember after all those years, again, like, as a kid, I started doing it was broadcasting. I woke up after thinking about it. They offered me jobs in other states and it just didn't make sense. And I woke up on a Monday and I said, whoa, Wednesday's your last day. And it was scary. it
Yeah.
was the, it
Yeah.
was, but it got to the point where it's not feeling like it fits me anymore.
Yes.
And, but you know what? Best thing I ever did,
Yeah.
because you never know what's waiting on the other side. And, not about me, I'm just sharing this, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I made that decision to leave. I did have some severance, so I did get some pay while I was figuring out my next option.
Right.
I had no idea what that was going to be, but my son at the time was 8 months old and learned that he had a very serious medical condition right after I left that job. So
Wow.
I believe the universe said to me that, hey, guess what? There's no way you would have been able to continue working. He needed skull surgery. He's fantastic now.
Oh,
Everything turned
wow.
out wonderful,
Oh,
but
that's good.
it was had to search for doctors, decide who's going to cut his head open, all of that. I couldn't have been working then. So
No.
it's almost like the universe said, yeah, you're stopping here because you got stuff over here. So you never know. And it all turned out great, career wise, but I get it. It was scary. It was, and I will share this because I'll never forget. A friend said to me, very intuitive friend. He said, after I said, I left my job, I don't know what am I going to do now. He said, when you're at your lowest point, and that was kind of a low point, he goes,
Mm,
you're most humble and most humble to receive whatever's out there.
yeah.
And that may be even from within. So it's change is scary, but it can be a good thing at
It is.
times.
It can be a good thing, and it can be the best thing.
Yes.
Rather like you, I am a firm believer. I've said this all my life that things happen for a reason.
Every day goes on, I see it more.
Yes.
And I don't want to just subscribe to it and say, well, it's cliche and hey, it's easy to say. But if you take the time to look at how all the pieces in our lives and how the puzzles, it kind of goes together. It's like, wow, yeah, that wouldn't have happened unless that happened, and connect the dots.
Mhm.
Tell us about the I believe it's a 6-step program that you have.
Yes. I'm rewriting my signature program, and I've rewritten it to. It's called the Life Mastery Blueprint. So it's 6 steps. And the first step is really about examining where are you at? Why have you sought help? Why is it that you feel that change is needed in your life?
Hmm.
Because you need to understand where you currently are. And then we figure out what is it you actually want to move to? Where is it you want to go to? And then we can see what gap we've got. And then we can work on certain techniques to help with mindset. As you know, I'm big on mindset.
Yes.
So starting to rewire the brain to look for the positives, to look for opportunities, to look at things in a slightly different way rather than the negative bias that we're born with. So to rewire, reprogram us. And then we start looking at goals and 30, 60, 90-day plans and reviewing them and maintaining them and having a rolling 30, 60, 90-day plan. So then, so that becomes like maintenance. And I liken it to having, toothpaste to help with your gums. There's no point in just doing it for the 6 weeks of the toothpaste. And when it runs out, hey, I feel better. That's it.
Don't have to brush my teeth anymore.
In 6 weeks' time, you're going to be back to where you are. So it's a maintenance thing.
Sure.
And then the final step is, once you're up, you're running, you're maintaining. It's about giving back and leading by example. I'm doing this not just to help the person, but for the person, the client, to have that ripple effect across their whole community, be it their loved ones, their family, friends, be it a group that they belong to, a church they go to, whatever it is. And to perhaps be inspiration for others as well.
Well, how great would it be if you get to that point where you've changed your life, you had the aha moments, if you will, and then you can share that with others. And by the way, in the seconds we have left, when we talk about these, 30, 60, 90 days, this is not like a sales pitch or anything. That's also been proven because the brain, in terms of changing habits, takes time. It's not an overnight thing.
No.
You have to keep working on it. But when you do, wow, what a change. What a change for you and your life. Suzanne, I love the name of your company. Zen Coaching, like Zen, but Suzanne. How do we find you?
I haven't got a website at the moment. I'm working on that with a colleague, but I'm on Facebook. So it's Zan Life Coaching. I also have a group on Facebook, which is Live Your Life on Your Terms. And I'm also on LinkedIn as myself, Suzanne Jenkins.
Fantastic. I'm going to check out your group. I'm getting into more and more groups and loving it, like the camaraderie, talking to people, sharing ideas. You feel like you know them.
Yes.
Because they're all in the same group. Yes. Suzanne, always great talking with you. Really appreciate today's talk, and it was so important, when it comes to facing your fears and change, and you're there to help people, and I appreciate that.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes. and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.